Hello there, and a very warm welcome to Chazingdra Chats, the show where we take a stroll through the life stories of people in the Pokemon community, discovering the 6 Pokemon on their dream team along the way. I'm Charlie Merriman, Merri by name, Merri by nature, otherwise known as Chazingdra, a host and commentator for the Pokemon Video Game Championship Series, and a content creator. And this week, as every week, I very much hope my guest and I can make your day merry, because I have the pleasure of being joined by PaPaSea. PaPaSea, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for asking. I'm doing very well, thank you. For anyone who's not so familiar with you, PaPaSea, can you give a brief introduction to yourself?
So I'm PaPaSea on all social media. I make Pokemon videos, and I don't really know what else to say besides that, because I'm not really tied down to like one specific type of niche. I kind of just have an idea and then just go with that.
That's really interesting, because the advice time and time again on YouTube is to find your niche and then stick to that. But it's great that you, well, I guess Pokemon is the overall niche, but it's great that you've been able to find a way to be a bit more creative with that. And can you give people a sense of the kinds of videos you tend to make?
So my most popular series it's done now, but it's Beating Pokémon How Nintendo Intended, where I take the strategy guide and just follow it as closely as possible. And then secondary to that, a lot of various fact videos I've made throughout the years, but a lot of varying content throughout the years. Those two are my main ones, but there's some weird stuff on there too.
Yeah, and I'm very much looking forward to exploring far more about that. Now, PaPaSea and I have never met in person, but thinking about it, were you at the World Championships this summer in Anaheim?
I was not at the World Championships, no.
You were? Okay, I was going to say. So I was there commentating, but maybe we could have met there, but no. Fortunately, ships in the night, we didn't all meet there. But I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we meet in person. Of course, I know of PaPaSea through their content and, of course, through various mutual connections, and I'm looking forward to taking a deeper dive. So, PaPaSea, shall we do this?
Sure.
Great. Let's dive in. Let's get to know your life story and the 6 Pokemon you're choosing for your dream team. And what we're going to start off with here, very appropriately, is how you first got into Pokemon.
Okay, so that ties into the first Pokemon on my dream team, actually. So when I first got into Pokemon, I was a kid, and this was probably late 90s, maybe the year 2000. And I remember slowly hearing about Pokemon, not knowing too much about it. And then I remember going into some like corner store, and I'm sure everybody had this. I don't know if they had them in the UK, but there are these Pokemon toys that's like a clear ball with like a Pokemon figure in them.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a Blastoise and a Jolteon and loving those toys. And then maybe a few days later, I remember watching the anime, and it was the episode with Muck in the sewer. I don't know if you remember that one.
Vaguely, yeah.
And being like, Muck is freaking sweet. And then I think it was Christmas. So I have 2 older sisters for reference. So for Christmas, or a few days before Christmas, whatever, my dad comes home. He gives my oldest sister a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Red. He gives my other sister a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Blue. Then, and I've told this story before, he reaches into the bag and hands me Tetris. Not a Game Boy with Tetris, just like a machine that's just Tetris.
Okay.
So I remember like borrowing my sister's Red version and playing that a ton. And then later on, a few months later, I got a Atomic Purple, Game Boy Color, and Pokemon Red, which I still have to this day. And part of how I got into Pokemon, and part of why Starmie is the Pokemon that I chose for this, is because for some reason as a kid, I just loved Starmie, and I had 2 Starmies on my team.
2 Starmies on your team?
2 Starmies, yeah. I don't know what it was about Starmie, but Starmie's always been like one of my more low-key favorite Pokemon that I don't talk about a lot, because as a child, it was like literally my favorite Pokemon.
Wow. Do you have any inkling as to what might have spoken to you about Starmie in the first place?
Okay, so I remember I thought Psychic was the most overpowered move in the game, which it kind of was. Yeah. Psychic and Surf. And Starmie learned Psychic and Surf. So I caught 2 of them. But the weirder thing about that is you can only get Staryu in Gen 1 via fishing with a good rod. So like I don't know how I figured that out as like a 4-year-old. And then caught 2 of them and then kept them on the team. And my Hall of Fame team also had a Kakuna because I didn't know how to evolve it because it only knew Harden. And it like could never gain EXP, and I was not smart enough to know how to switch train.
That's so funny. Okay. Well, I guess something that comes to mind here, given that, as you were saying in the introduction, one of your most popular series is Beating the Games How Nintendo Intended It, Nintended, so in other words, using the official guidebook and playing through. Did you have one of those when you were playing through Generation 1?
As a kid, no. I don't think I had a guidebook until Ruby and Sapphire came out. So Generation 3.
Sure. Well, clearly, you somehow worked out that you were able to fish, and maybe it was through friends on the playground or your old sisters or something. Okay, so you see your sisters get Pokemon and you get Tetris, a sort of Tetris machine. Are you immediately like, oh, I was so looking forward to getting Pokemon?
Yeah, I was, because I thought I was going to get... I knew there was only 2 versions at the time, because yellow version hadn't come out yet. So I remember wondering, like, am I going to get red or blue? And then I got neither.
Yeah, sure. Okay. A few months later, was that, for a birthday that you got Pokemon, or did you just say to your parents, I really would like this?
I don't remember the exact time frame. I feel like it was more than a couple days. I don't remember the exact time frame, but I know that there was like a period of time where I distinctly remember playing this black and white Tetris machine, not understanding how it worked, and then just wanting to play Pokemon.
Right. Okay. Sure. And when you then eventually got your own copy of Red version, was it all you wanted and more?
Yes. I remember it took me probably about 2 years to beat it. I remember I'm visiting my grandparents in Greece, and I'm sitting on his couch, and I beat Pokemon. I beat it for the first time. And then I put it away, and then my cousin wants to try it, and I let him try it, and he resets my save file.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's often the way. It's a tale that we've it's kind of old as time on the show at this point. It's but all too easy to do. Make the mistake of accidentally erasing that original save file. Okay, and Starmie on Team, do you have a particular sort of love of starfish or stars generally?
No. See, this is like before SpongeBob was a thing too, so it's not even like because I like Patrick Star or something. It's just Psychic and Surf are the 2 best moves in the game, and it gets both of them.
Right. Okay. Sure. Do you remember what else? So you had 2 Starmie and a Kakuna. Do you remember what else rounded out that team?
I had 2 Starmies, a Kakuna, a Charizard, and then a Ninetales that my sister traded to me after she beat the game because I was struggling.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Right. And then, so roughly how old would you have been when you were playing Pokemon for the first time?
I would say between the ages of like 4 and 6, so very young.
Yeah, that is young. Okay. Wow. And then from that point on, do you start, leaning into other areas, collecting the cards, sort of as soon as a new game comes out, you get that?
Oh, of course. I had like all the spin-off games like Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Snap. I got all the cards like, Base Set, Fossil, Jungle, just everything Pokemon. The anime, like for the first 3 generations, I was obsessed with the anime and seen every single episode. Like if it was Pokemon, I was on it at that time.
Sure. Okay, sure. And now, going beyond Pokemon, what sort of other hobbies were you into? What school subjects did you particularly like?
So for hobbies, always like Pokemon or like things that were Pokemon adjacent, I guess you could say. Like I'm big into Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid, I loved Beyblade, like those various like anime-esque games. And then for school, like I always liked history. Just it was the easiest one because you just like listened, and that's it. That's it. You should have listened and then remember.
There you go. Top tip, everybody. If you're struggling with history, just listen. And
just
frankly, most other classes as well. And things in life, just listen to what you're being told. And probably that's a good start. Okay, and history I think makes a lot of sense given now what you do with content creation, telling stories, but also diving back deep into the archives and beating games, using those guidebooks. These now what could be considered historical artifacts, I suppose. Playing through those games. Okay, fascinating. And did you have sort of a network of friends at school as well who played Pokemon?
When I was younger, yeah. Like I remember, so when I played Red and Blue, I was like a little too young for like people in my playground, I guess you could say, that would play Pokemon, but my sisters and my cousin would play. But I remember once Ruby and Sapphire came out in Generation 3, that's when like everyone on the playground was playing. Like you'd bring your link cable, you would trade Pokemon at lunch. Like I remember one kid had the guidebook. This is before I had it, and that's how we found out about like the Reggie trio and like how to catch them. And that was like, I would say that was like peak Pokemon for me in terms of childhood, because everybody at school played Pokemon. Everyone always talked about it. Everyone had their Game Boy. And like that was the peak for me, was Generation 3.
Sure. Okay, well, I know we'll get to Generation 3, but first, the next topic that you want to discuss here is, of course, we will surf from here into now Generation 2 and how you then stuck with Pokemon.
Yeah, so I feel like Generation 2 was when, and Generation 3 even, was when Pokemon started to decline in popularity a lot. Like Pokemania was sort of declining. My sisters got out of Pokemon. My cousins got out of Pokemon. But Generation 2, I stuck with it. I watched the anime, and this goes into my second team member, if that's okay. Fortress, which at the time of Generation 2 was my favorite Pokemon. And now lately it's kind of come back as one of my favorites again, despite not really thinking about it the last like 20 years, because I play the Pokemon TCG as well. And there's this like gimmicky Fortress EX card that's really funny that I like, that I've been playing in a deck recently. And that kind of like rekindled my love for Fortress.
I see. I'm a big fan of Fortress as well. Bug types generally, but Pineco Fortress. Because it's always, in order to catch a Pineco that evolves into Fortress, you have to headbutt trees. It's not a Pokemon that you can immediately just sort of stumble upon, and I think it's got that mystery to it. And also, Bug Steel, that combination that Fortress has, is a really good one. I mean, the only weakness is fire, and it is very weak to fire. A really fascinating Pokemon, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's similar to Starmie in that they're both kind of relatively compact shapes. Simple shapes, and not necessarily have the most personality just to their appearance. So it's really interesting. I wonder how many more Pokemon of this ilk we will have filling in your team.
They were also both prominent in the anime, and also both spin.
That's true. Sure. And you said you're into Beyblade, so we are piecing some things together here. Okay.
Yes,
spinning things.
And yo-yos, too, which also spin.
Yeah, okay. Wow. Well, there are all sorts of ways the Dream Team could go from here, but I feel like maybe they're not going to be entirely spinning Pokemon, but we'll see. So what do you think it was that made you enjoy Fortress so much back then?
I think because it was used in the anime and I thought it was cool, and it was like the new Steel type. Because back, I mean, we've had new types relatively recently with Fairy types, but back as a kid, seeing that there was like new types completely blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, Steel and Dark introduced in Generation 2. And how exciting a time that was. Okay. Did you have Gold or Silver version?
I had Silver.
You had Silver. Okay, likewise. Sure. Okay. And when you're playing through Silver, I guess, because you started with Generation 1 when you were very, very young. As you're playing through Silver, are you feeling like, this is even better than Generation 1? I mean, how are you thinking about how they're comparing?
Yeah, so I don't remember playing Silver as much as I remember playing like Red and Blue, Ruby and Sapphire. I do remember starting with the Typhlosion.
Okay.
I distinctly remember beating the Kimono girls in the car.
Okay.
And I remember, I don't think I actually beat Silver until after Ruby and Sapphire came out. I think it took me that long to beat it. And I remember my battery ran dry, because that's like a common thing with the Generation 1 and 2 games, where there's like an internal battery, and if it runs dry, you lose your save file. Typically, it's like 10 years, but I remember mine running dry like maybe like 2004, 2005. So only about 5 years after release, and I lost the save file.
Okay, wow. You had Fortress on your team?
I don't think I did.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I knew how to get it at the time.
Sure, okay. Fair enough. Okay, sure. So, as you said, Pokemania at this point is slightly on the wane. So, this is just sort of a solo activity you're enjoying.
Yeah.
What is this Fortress gimmick that you mentioned?
Okay, so I don't know how familiar you are with the TCG, but...
Not very familiar, but for the benefit of anyone who doesn't know anything about it yet.
So, to briefly explain it, in the TCG, you have 6 prize cards. If your opponent knocks out a Pokemon, they take a prize card. Fortress is an EX Pokemon, meaning if it gets knocked out, your opponent takes 2 of their 6 prize cards. Fortress has an ability where you knock itself out, like on your own volition, and then you attach 5 grass energy from your deck to a Mega Kangaskhan in this case. And Mega Kangaskhan is a basic Pokemon in the TCG, so you can just play it down right away. It has a lot of HP, so it's hard to knock out, and it just kind of sits there and tanks hits and does a lot of damage. And that's the whole gimmick, yeah.
So Fortress is very much the sort of supportive piece.
Yeah, you need Fortress, otherwise you just can't really attack.
Very interesting. Okay, sure. And so you picked Typhlosion Cyndaquil for your first partner.
Yeah.
Silver. Would you say you always go for the fire first partner because you had Charizard in red as well?
When I was younger, yeah. So I think when I was younger, it was like mostly fire, and then come Generation 4, I started picking mainly grass types. Actually, I started with Turtwig in Pearl version. I remember when I first got it, and I think since then it's been mostly grass types that I've started with. But I've started with some water types too, like Froakie and that.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Any recollection of what else was rounding out this team in Generation 2?
No, actually,
Okay.
I know Typhlosion. I remember getting Crystal and starting with Totodile and never beating Crystal because my Crystal save file also the battery ran dry, so I lost that pretty early. Yeah.
Very interesting. Fortress, welcome to the team. Right, we will throw our spikes down now from there into how you found your favorite Pokemon.
So as a kid, I remember Ruby and Sapphire were coming out. I remember my aunt was a librarian, so they had these they had bookmarks that just said like Pokemon Ruby coming soon. And I remember on them it had the one I had was the Ruby one, so it had Groudon, and then on the back I think it had Tailo and Latias and maybe like Zigzagoon. And I remember like looking at that and being like, man, I want Pokemon, but I was like 8 years old. I didn't know like when it was coming out. I didn't know anything about that. And then one day I go to Target and it's just there on the shelf, and I'm like, I need this. So I get it. I start with Torchic because I thought Torchic was really cool, and it still is really cool. I'm playing through the game, and eventually I see a Gulpin, and I caught it. And I had that Gulpin on my team. It never evolved, so I didn't use it that much, I guess, because it evolves like level 26. And I just thought it was a really cool Pokemon, just a little blob, little green blob. And that's part of the reason why Gulpin and Swalot are my favorite Pokemon, because I thought they were cool as a kid. But similar to Fortress, it's not something that I really fully realized until maybe like 5 or 6 years ago that it was actually my favorite Pokemon. And it's been my favorite Pokemon since. I just like blob characters. Fortress is also a blob. I got a little Gulpin behind me. I love Tamagotchi too. I don't know if you're familiar with Tamagotchi.
Yeah.
But Gulpin looks like it could easily be a Tamagotchi character because they're all like blobs with like cute faces.
I actually also remember catching a Gulpin when I was playing through Generation 3 for the first time, because it was so, as you say, it looked so different from others, and that, definitely made it cool in my eyes. And also because it's not the most common. It only appears on one particular route, I think, and I was just fascinated to see what it evolved into. Also, Poison was a fairly rare type. So are you going to be adding Gulpin or Swalot to the team here?
See, that's a tough one, because I think recently I've been gravitating more towards Gulpin than Swalot. Like, Swalot's the evolution. Swalot's on my avatar for my channel, but I think I'm gonna actually make Gulpin because I have more memories with Gulpin, and I like the Gulpin plush better than the Swalot plush. I don't even know where the Swalot plush is, but the Gulpin plush looks cooler.
I see. Okay, fair enough. Gulpin joined the team. That's really interesting. I really thought it would be Swalot because, again, as you say, that is in your channel picture on YouTube.
And it has a better shiny.
Right. Yeah, so Gulpin's shiny, by the way, shiny Pokemon, for anyone unfamiliar, very rare, alternately coloured forms of Pokemon that are in no other way different, but just highly prized for that rarity. So Gulpin's shiny is light blue, if I recall correctly. What's Swalot's?
Nice Swalot's also a light blue, but I think it looks better on Gulpin.
Okay, fair enough. So would you say that Generation 3 overall is your favourite of Pokemon?
Yeah, I would. A lot of the times, like, I was fighting it and being like, nah, Gen 3 is not my favorite, and I would kind of, like, gaslight myself to be like, Gen 5 is better. And Gen 5 is great, but, like, okay, come on. If you look behind me, it's out of focus. I have this entire cube is just dedicated to Gen 3. No other cube is dedicated to any other specific generation. But I mean, that one's Bulbasaur, but that's besides the point. Generation 3 is, like, it's the one I play the most. It's the one I have the most memories with because I was a little bit older, so I was able to remember more compared to Red and Blue and Gold and Silver, where I remember like nothing. And it's probably the games I played through the most, Ruby and Sapphire specifically. Emerald too, but I only had one copy of Emerald, but I had Ruby and Sapphire, so I would reset my Sapphire a lot. And then I lost my Ruby version and my Game Boy Advance SP.
What?
And yeah, I think it was stolen. It is what it is, though.
Yeah. Oh my goodness me. You had some really bad luck with your Pokemon adventures when you
I didn't realize that until we started this conversation, but yeah. Gen 2 and 3 specifically, like...
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, again, I'm just very pleased that you stuck with it after all that. Okay. So I guess, yeah, it sounds like for you, the main reason why Generation 3 is your favourite really is just because you sort of hit that age sweet spot where Pokemon was going to land with you in its most impactful way. Part of the reason why Generation 2 is my favourite, I think it just so happens to be the right age for it at that time. Okay, sure. Gulpin you loved. What other standout Pokemon from Gen 3 did you have?
I remember having Blaziken as my starter. I definitely had Gulpin for a while. I remember having Numel for a while, but the Numel never evolved. I remember having, I'm pretty sure I had Wailmer, but it also didn't evolve.
Okay.
I like my team from Ruby and Sapphire, I remember beating it in a restaurant waiting for the food to come, and I was like so excited. Because I was basically the 2004 equivalent of an iPad kid with my Game Boy Advance SP before it got stolen or lost. And I remember like basically just solo running it with Blaziken, like the stereotypical child team. I remember my Blaziken was level 79 when I'm going to the Elite Four. And for reference, I think the Champion's final Pokemon's like level 58. So it was like well above everything else. But since everything else was like unevolved and like a Numel and a Gulpin, I just struggled so hard against it until I finally beat it.
I see. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it does sound like your classic Charles first playthrough. And you said also earlier that this is the kind of time where you did have more people around you, friends and so on, who were playing Generation 3 of Pokemon. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about those memories.
Yeah, so this is also when like Pokemon Coliseum and XD came out. So we were like going to a friend's house and we would play. This was also around the time where the Pokemon Center, which is now the Nintendo store in New York City, would have like event distributions if you brought your cartridge in and like plugged it in there. It was like so cool. Like Generation 3 just had a lot going on in terms of the games, especially because there was just so much to do. There were so many side games. Like the GameCube games were fantastic. There were so many like, I know Generation 1 is infamous for having like the weird rumors and stuff, but Gen 3 had it as well because like there was these random points in the game where you had to read Braille and everyone's like, what is this? But Generation 3 has like always been so special because I feel like it's the generation that just, especially at that time period, just has the most to offer. There was also the Journey Across America tour, which it was in Europe, but it was called something different, which was an event for the 10th anniversary of Pokemon where they went across to various malls and basically had like a Pokemon convention. And they had like a tournament there. They had event distributions there. It was awesome. And they've never done anything like that again.
These Pokemon that could only be obtained by attending a event like that in person and being traded them, mythical Pokemon and so on.
Yep.
Wow, fascinating. Okay, so we know that Gulpin is one of your favourites, but what's another one of your favourites from Generation 3?
From Generation 3 is tough because I like pretty much all of them. Ludicolo is a big one. I love Ludicolo. I have, can you see it behind me? You can barely see it behind me. It's right in front of the Kirby plush. That's a Detective Pikachu 7-Eleven exclusive. I'll just pick it up, actually. This is a Detective Pikachu promotion from 7-Eleven where you could just get a Slurpee straw with the Detective Pikachu version of Ludicolo on it.
Wow.
And I just think it's awesome.
Okay, so around this time, I'm gonna suppose that you were sort of around 10, just over 10, playing Gen 3?
So I feel like Gen 3 was like a long generation. I feel like it was like 4-ish years compared to other generations. So I was between the ages of like 8 and 12 or so. So yeah, right around there.
Yeah. Okay, sure. And at this point, so your older sisters, have they fully moved away from Pokemon?
Pretty much, yeah. So I don't think either of my sisters got Gold and Silver, and then one of my sisters got Sapphire, and I think also Diamond, but was like very like loosely into it. Would just like play it a little bit when the games came out, and that's it.
Okay, sure, right. And then again, so going beyond Pokemon now, you still sort of diving into history. Are there any other like music, drama, sports that you're into?
I remember playing soccer as a kid. I liked soccer. That was or football. Sorry.
Thank you.
It was fun. Didn't stick with it too long because I broke my wrist because a kid fell on me in gym class and broke my wrist.
No.
Right at the start of the soccer season one year, and I just like couldn't play. And then I also just like didn't really want to play after missing so much. So I fell out of it when I was like 12.
Okay. Oh dear. Well, at least Pokemon was there for you, and Gulpin, welcome to the team. We will spray our acid from here now into getting older and discovering Pokemon YouTube.
Yeah, so this is going to be like Generation 4, but also Generation 5 at the same time. So like the years of like 2009 to like 2012, I would say. So I've always watched YouTube a lot ever since I was like a little kid. I think YouTube started in like 2005, and I remember going on it as a kid in like 2005, 2006. I was a very online child with a lot less online supervision than I probably should have had. But luckily, I turned out okay. At least I think I turned out okay. Because the websites I spent my most time on were like Cerebi, Bulbapedia. Well, actually, Bulbapedia I don't think existed yet. But like websites like Cerebi, and then also YouTube looking at Pokemon videos. And I remember discovering like Maryland, who used to upload a lot of like Pokemon Let's Plays back in like 2009. I distinctly remember watching his Pokemon Yellow playthrough, and then that spawned me to also replay Pokemon Yellow and catch some of the same Pokemon he did. And obviously like that was a huge part because around this time, at the start of it, like I remember watching YouTube videos on my Wii of Pokemon so I could watch them on the TV. Like just Let's Plays. But also like shortly after that, like shortly after like the tail end of Generation 4, I was like a little bit older and was like, oh, I'm too cool for Pokemon. You know, I was in that phase. So I tried to like wane off of it. And then I remember this would have been late Generation 4, early Generation 5. So like 2010, 2011. That's when I really got into Pokemon on YouTube. I started watching channels that did a lot of like competitive battling, like Magnitude or Hayden and Shofu. And I remember making videos of, this would have been Heart Gold, Soul Silver. I would do like a Wi-Fi battle, and I would point a camera at this gameplay, no commentary, and then just upload my battles. And that was like really my start. Just having Wi-Fi battles that I found online on various Pokemon forums, recording them with a camera, and then just uploading them, no commentary, no audio.
Very interesting. Well, I mean, everyone starts somewhere. You mentioned Cerebi there, Cerebi Joe Merrick. I have actually interviewed for the show, so do check out our interview there. Fascinating insight from that figurehead of the Pokemon community at this point. I mean, Cerebi serves so many people. Yeah, so as you say, YouTube comes around roughly 2005. How long between discovering YouTube from then to you actually making your own videos?
So, it's hard to remember, but I remember making videos probably like 2009, 2010. I remember making a Pokemon Ruby Let's Play, and I had no idea what I was doing, dude. Like, I had no idea how recording equipment worked. I had a really bad computer, and I used, like, the way I recorded it was just not right. So the audio from my voice was not in sync at all. So I had to, like, go back, and I remember spending so much time just resyncing the audio. And I'm pretty sure I just uploaded one episode of Pokemon Ruby, and that's it. And that was like my first and only video at the time that had commentary.
Okay, sure. And that was your first video that you ever did?
This would have been after the Wi-Fi battles where I pointed my phone at the screen. The first video I ever did, God, I'm pretty sure it was probably like 2008, 2009. And it wasn't even Pokemon. Like, I mentioned this a little earlier, but I'm really into yo-yos, which is like a very niche hobby. And I'm pretty sure it was like a yo-yo trick compilation video from like 2008. It was the first video I ever made. Wow. It's not on YouTube anymore. But
sure. Okay.
It was the first one I ever made.
So did you master some cool tricks with yo-yos?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
I went to like a couple of competitions and stuff. They used to do. It's not a very big hobby, so there's not a lot going on. Sure. But I remember they used to have like a pretty big competition in New York City in 2008, 2009 that I went a couple times. Did not do well, but I went, and I was there twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so clearly you're enjoying Pokemon so much that part of you feels like I want to do more than just play. I want to make stuff about these games. And so at this point, roughly where would you be in terms of your schooling?
So this would be between like, probably I would say early high school. Yeah, like 9th, 10th grade. Because the Pokemon that I picked for this section, I didn't mention at the start. But the Pokemon that I wanted to add for my team for this section was Samurott. Because it is, specifically Oshawott, like one of my favorite starter Pokemon next to Bulbasaur. And I feel like Generation 5 was just like a huge turning point for the Pokemon franchise, and also a huge turning point as to like that's when I got back into Pokemon really heavily, because I went through this like year period, late Generation 4 before Generation 5, where I thought it was too cool for Pokemon. Yeah. And Generation 5 really brought me back into that. And I feel like Generation 5 also had like a bigger uptick in like Pokemon on YouTube, even leading into Generation 6. That period, like from 2011 to 2013, I feel like that was like a huge turning point for Pokemon on YouTube. Whereas if you look at Pokemon on YouTube before 2013 and then after 2013, that's the point, I guess. Like that's prehistoric and then modern, so to say.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And then in that year or so where you're not, you're going through this too cool for Pokemon phase, and this is another very common theme that comes out on the show. We've all identified something like that, whether it's with Pokemon or not. But how are you occupying your spare time? What are you into there?
Yeah, so that's the funny part, is I thought I was too cool for Pokemon, so instead I was heavily into Yu-Gi-Oh! And would go to the card shop every Saturday to play Yu-Gi-Oh! But Pokemon was too nerdy, but Yu-Gi-Oh! is fun. Yeah.
I see. The nerdiness will find an out, and it's good that you're just owning that part of yourself. Okay, Samurott will be the fourth Pokemon joining your team here. So why are you choosing Samurott instead of Oshawott?
So I always nickname my Samurott Narwhali, spelt Gnarwhali. Wally. I think I spelled that right. Because when I first saw Samurott, I was like, this name is fine, but if I were to name this Pokemon, I would name it Narwhally because it's a gnarly narwhal. And I feel like that's like a name that Pokemon would pick for a Pokemon. But then they just went with Samurott, which like is still cool. It's like a Samurott and an otter, but a gnarly narwhal is cooler.
Narwhally, the gnarly narwhal. Wow, that's a lot of fun. And you said earlier that sometimes you would make yourself think that maybe Generation 5 was cooler, but fundamentally Generation 3 has that much more nostalgia for you.
Oh yeah, Generation 5 is way cooler. Like Generation 5 is the coolest generation. Easy. But my favorite, like, it's Gen 3. It has to be.
Okay. That's interesting you said that, and I can see why you're saying that. I mean, Generation 5, that was sort of a soft reset for the franchise, so it was only new Pokemon that you could obtain in that game before the Elite Four at the end of the game. And yeah, it certainly has an older feel to it. The player character that you control feels like a slightly older person, and so on. Okay, very interesting. But then Generation 5, you're right back with it. And at this point, do you have other people around you, friends at school, who are playing Pokemon?
Not really. Like, Generation 5 was weird because a lot of people in my school just like started playing Pokemon again with Generation 5. Like some of my friends did. But they're more so like the casual fans where like the new game comes out, they play, and then like that's it. It's done. But I remember like everybody in my school was playing, and this was high school. This was like 10th, 11th grade. So I'm like between the ages of like 15 and 17 here. And everyone's playing Black and White 1. It's like the weirdest sight. Everyone has their DS, they're playing Black and White 1, they're like, yo, how do you get this Pokemon? How do you get past this gym? And all that. And it felt a lot like being a little kid again, playing Generation 3 at school, because I remember playing Generation 4 and like being made fun of for liking Pokemon when I was playing Diamond and Pearl. I remember having like a bookmark with like the Gen 4 starters on and being made fun of for that. Like stuff like that.
Wow. I'm very pleased that, people around you were leaning into it, and I mean, obviously Pokemon is a game that's so much more fun to play with people where you can trade with them, and I guess that goes for any game, but especially with Pokemon, given how interconnective the different versions of the games are. Okay, brilliant. Well, and Samurott, welcome to the team. Okay, so we will aquajet from there right now into other aspects of Pokemon that you got into.
Okay, so I had a hard time picking Pokemon because there was only 6. I could have easily picked 8, but I kind of had to like Samurott was kind of lumped to represent generations 4 and 5, like that era of Pokemon, if that makes sense. And then this next Pokemon is a Gen 5 Pokemon, but it also ties into like Gen 6/7. So the one I picked was Reshiram. And this one isn't necessarily just for the games. The main reason why I picked it was because late in the Gen 4 era, so early Gen 5 as well, that's when I really got into the Pokemon trading card game, like competitively. Not just collecting cards, like actually learning how to play the games. Watching channels like JWits and Zapdos TCG, Pokemon Dan level 45, who is now the Diamond Minecart, crazy enough. And Reshiram was in the first deck that I ever built, the first competitive deck I ever built. It was a deck built around Reshiram and an Emboar, and the Emboar would attach energies to the Reshiram so the Reshiram could do bigger damage. And this is really like also leads into 2018, 2019, where I actually like started to go to card shops regularly, because back in like 2010, 2011, even though I was like collecting cards, building decks and stuff, there was nowhere to play the card game for me at this time. Like my friends didn't play. There was no card shops that hosted Pokemon events at the time. So I was just like getting these cards and building decks and like just not playing. And then 2018 is when I graduated college. I really got into Pokemon TCG again. And kind of like in a funny turn of events, the first competitive deck that I built also revolved around Reshiram. It's just funny how at both time periods, Reshiram was involved in one of the best decks. And this is like the only 2 times in like Pokemon's history that Reshiram was like one of the best decks. So it's funny how they both coincided like that. But also this was when I really started YouTube again. Or not again, but like on my current channel, was late Gen 5, early Gen 6. Because I feel like Gen 5 and Gen 6 was like a huge boom with creators, and I wanted Reshiram to sort of represent that, like my full foray into Pokemon YouTube. Because at this point, going forward from 2012, 2013 on, YouTube is like my biggest focus for Pokemon, if that makes sense.
Sure. Okay, Reshiram joining the team, and yeah, it ties in so well with not only the TCG but this era of Pokemon that you're talking about. So, what did you study at college?
Yeah, so about that. So when I first went to college, I did not know what I wanted to major in at all. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grow up, right? Like when I was playing soccer, I was like, oh, I'll be a soccer player. Then I stopped playing soccer. When I was really little and loved Pokemon Snap, and they asked you what you want to be when you grow up, I said a photographer because I thought photographers would ride around the jungle and take pictures of animals, which is not the case at all. Photographers take pictures of like weddings and stuff. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was undecided. I went to a very expensive university. Remember, I was only there for one semester. I was talking to my counselor, and they're like, yeah, you're going to be like $250,000 in debt if you go here for 4 years as somebody who has an undecided major. So I immediately transferred to a much less expensive school, got an associate's degree in liberal arts because I still did not know what I wanted to do. And then because I still didn't know what I really wanted to do, I just picked business management because that was so broad and applies to so many different things. So I'm like, sure, business management. So I got my degree in business management, and I am struggling to find a job. Like, I went to like a pretty solid school, like a pretty good school. I was a good student. Like, I had, my resume like looked over by other people. I had like cover letters that I would write, and I was doing it what I would thought to be the right way. But I just could not find anything. And the few things that I found, they were like, yeah, we can hire you, but it's an unpaid internship. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not in college anymore, so like I don't want to take an unpaid internship. So then I actually went back to school. And I went back to school and I got a certification in IT. And it's weird because it's an IT certification, but I was doing a lot of programming work. So like I learned C++, I learned C#, I learned Java, and I really liked it. And then I finished that in the summer of 2019. So you can see where this is going. And it just turned out that my dad actually needed help at his business. So I was working with him for a few months. And I remember the last day I was at work with him, and he's like, this is the last day that I need you. It is the day that the world shut down from COVID. So the world shut down from COVID. And then, like, I remember applying to jobs still, but no new listings were being posted, and nobody was responding at all because nobody was working because it was the height of COVID. So I started making YouTube videos a lot, and here we are now, basically.
Wow. So do you think that without the pandemic, you'd be doing something totally different, probably something more in IT?
Probably, yeah. Like, almost definitely. I don't know if I would still be active on YouTube or Twitch at all.
Fascinating. Okay. And yet you said you still really enjoyed doing the IT work that you did do. So
I liked it. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a part of you that would like to do some of that alongside YouTube?
Maybe. Like, possibly. I don't know. Another thing I was considering at that time was being an accountant, which is like super boring and lame. But one thing that I think would be kind of cool is like, and I don't even know if this even exists. I'm sure it does. But I feel like if I were to ever just like not be a YouTuber anymore, I think one of the things I would heavily consider doing is getting my CPA, which is like your accounting certificate, whatever. And being an accountant that like specializes in working with like YouTubers and influencers, because like there's a lot of confusing aspects to like making money on the internet that a lot of people don't know. And that just think is something that'd be really interesting, because even in my experience, like working with accountants, a lot of the times like they don't understand like how it works. So that's something I think would be interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
It's great that you know that you have these skills and other things that you could do. Okay, great. So you're working with your dad, and then the world shuts down. Would you say that, by the time the first day of lockdown comes around, would you say what's the state of your YouTube channel at this point? Have you lent into different kinds of content and so on?
So this was early 2020 or early to mid 2020. My channel was mainly Pokemon, but I remember like 2019, I didn't upload a lot at all. Like Sword and Shield had just come out. I wasn't really uploading. I wasn't streaming much. And then I started making more of like the discussion or fact oriented videos in 2020, because once the pandemic started, I was like so beyond bored. Like there was nothing to do. Like there was no point of applying to jobs if you know you're not going to hear back until the world opens up again a few months later. So I was making videos, and I want to say I had just under 20,000 subscribers, like somewhere between 15,000 and 20,000. Because I remember early 2019 was a pretty big boom for my channel. Like the channel was doing pretty well and I saw a lot of growth. And then the second half of 2019, once I finished school and stuff, because that's when I went back for the IT certification, I started focusing more on that, started focusing on like finding a job and working with my dad. So I wasn't uploading as much. And then 2020, like I'm doing the fact videos and I'm trying to do 2 videos a week because it's COVID. I have nothing else to do. And it's like slowly picking up. And then late 2020, November, I uploaded the first Nintendo Intended video, and it was, and still is, like the biggest video I've ever done. And everything just sort of catapulted from there.
I see, okay. So what inspired you to do that very first Nintendo Intended?
So that video was inspired by a Minecraft YouTuber named Mystery Or, who did basically the same thing, but with Minecraft, using a strategy guide made by Mojang, who are the creators of Minecraft. And the funny thing is, I remember seeing that video in my recommended and being like, that's a cool video. And then like just not watching it. And then like it kept appearing in my recommended. And like the views would be insane. I think when I first saw it, it had like a few 100,000 views. Then I saw it again at like 1 million views. Then I saw it again at like 5 million views. Then I'm like, all right, let me watch this video. And then I watched it and I was like, wow, I could just do that with Pokemon. And then I did. And I chose Fire Red and Leaf Green because the only 2 guides I had from my childhood were Fire Red and Leaf Green and Ruby and Sapphire. And I thought Fire Red and Leaf Green made more sense because it's like Kanto, it's Gen 1-esque. And I eventually did the Ruby and Sapphire one anyway. But it just so worked out that specific Fire Red and Leaf Green guide, it's the Prima Games guide, was so weird and quirky with the way the guide writer wrote it that it just worked out perfect for a YouTube video. Because there's some guides that I've used, like especially the newer guides, like the Let's Go Pikachu guide or even like the black and white guides. Those guides are very cut and dry. Like, hey, catch this Pokemon, beat this gym, use this type. But the Fire Red and Leaf Green Prima guide would be like, hammer away at your foe and send him crying to his mom and like be all like sassy and weird and make these weird pop culture references. So it was just like a perfect storm of making that video.
Yeah. That's very interesting because I remember we had the Generation 1 Master Guide for Red and Blue, and it was much more like that. It had a very strange turn of phrase, and it would constantly use apostrophe em for them, so rather than them, and sort of you want a strong Pokemon team, not a wimpy one like this, and it had like Weedle, Caterpie, whatever. So it's really interesting to hear it was still in that vein. What's one big what's one of the craziest things you remember from that guide?
So I think the one that stands out the most is the one that people commented a lot about, is how the guide kept insisting on using electric types against ground types. Like, not specifically, like, use electric on ground, but it would say, like, use electric on Nidoqueen. And it's like, well, it's ground type, so it's immune. And just, like, the various mistakes it would make.
That's strange. Wow, okay. I see. So, before that Nintendo, you still very much just trying out all sorts of different kinds of videos. You don't have sort of a bread and butter content on your channel yet.
So at this point, like it was most like discussion-esque videos and like fact videos. Those were the big ones. And then after the Nintendo Intended video, that's when I started making more videos that are just playing Pokemon. And then it's kind of became a mix of things since then. Just like some videos about playing Pokemon. I've done Professor Oak's challenges. I've done Shiny Only challenges. I've done Hardcore Nuzlocks. And then I've also done like fact videos and discussion videos and like theories and all that.
Okay. Sure. And then, so when you reach the end of the pandemic, are you thinking, oh, hang on, this thing that I was doing just because I had nothing else to do now could be my job, sort of thing?
Yeah, so I remember it was my dad that pushed me more to do it like full time, because the first Nintendo Intended video, came out November 2021, and like early 2021, like I was making like pretty good money, like just doing YouTube full time with the amount that I was uploading all of that. And I remember thinking like, I probably have like 2 years of doing this realistically, right? Like 2 years, the pandemic will end, things will clear up, the channel will, probably die out. And then that didn't happen. So I kind of just stuck with it because it got to a point where it's like, okay, sure, I could go and get a traditional job with, the degrees that I have and whatever, and work 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. because it's 9-hour work days now. It's not 8 hours anymore in this country. Making the same, if not less money than I'm doing on YouTube. So I just stuck with it, and here we are.
That was fascinating. That's incredible. And it just, is a good... I'm glad that you're able to find the positives in the pandemic, which was, of course, a very strange and difficult time for so many reasons, and come out of that with the YouTube career that you have now. Okay, and Reshiram representing this era, and we will turbo blaze from there now into making Pokemon content full-time nowadays.
Yeah, so the Pokemon I picked to represent that is Duraludon, which is kind of like the secondary mascot of the channel. I always have the plush next to me on the desk. So Duraludon's a Pokemon that debuted in Sword and Shield in 2019 with the Generation 8, and I didn't really think much of it until like a year ago. Actually, less than a year ago. It's like I remember I was at the Atlanta Regionals with Quick Panic, with SB Coop, with Nora. We were all hanging out, and I don't know how we just got on the topic of Duraludon, and it just like slowly became one of my favorite Pokemon. I immediately got a plush of it. And I feel like Duraludon like represents the new era, because I feel like the last year, my videos have gotten a lot more like crazy and quirky and unhinged, and that kind of coincides with when I got this Duraludon. Because the thing with my content is I don't want to like put myself in a box, and I don't want to limit myself just doing like one specific thing. But at the same time, like I want to have some sort of degree of consistency, because like you were saying at the start of this, or maybe before we started recording, how like Pokemon is the niche, then you have the niche within the niche. And I've talked to other creators who are, they're in that niche of a niche, and they're like, wow, I don't like doing the same thing every week. So like there's two edges or two sides. It's a double-edged sword is the phrase that I'm looking for. Because it's like, if you do the same exact niche within a niche, it might get bored, you might not like it, but there's a degree of consistency there in terms of the viewership and stuff. But if you just do whatever the heck you want, you could do whatever the heck you want, but you might have one video do insanely well, and then the next two videos do insanely poorly. And there's like not that degree of consistency between the videos, which is the double-edged sword I was trying to describe before I completely forgot about the term.
Yeah. Totally. It's really interesting talking to you about this now, because I, too, have been sort of thinking about that kind of thing. Yeah, sure, go for the niche, but also the whole point of one of the reasons why YouTube is so appealing is because of that variety. So it's really interesting to hear that you're really benefiting from that variety. And yeah, I believe I've watched, I think you did a little vlog of that Atlanta Regionals.
Yes.
With Quick Panic and Nora and so on. And Quick Panic and Nora, in the future, both people I've also featured on the show, so everybody, if you haven't checked those episodes out, they'll be linked in the description below. Regional Championships, where competitive Pokemon is played. I am a Pokemon VGC caster, so for the video game side of things, commentating over that. And they are just wonderful celebrations of Pokemon and gatherings of these people where you know that you're going to have at least one thing in common with everyone there. And so it's a fantastic place to make friends.
And I feel like the last like year or two when it comes to Pokemon regionals, it's a lot of people see it and think it's just like a tournament, but it's not just a tournament. It's like a mini Pokemon convention. A lot of creators go there, and we meet up, and we hang out, and we make content and whatever. A lot of people that are just fans of Pokemon just show up, play side events maybe, or hang out with other Pokemon fans. It's a lot more than just a tournament. So if there's a regional or any sort of bigger Pokemon tournament in your area like that, you should consider checking it out, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%. I second that. So you said the past year or so, some of your content has had this sort of quirkier, wackier edge.
Yeah.
What would you say now, at the time of recording, which is late 2025, you have the Nintendo Nintended. Are there other kinds of series buckets, so to speak, that have formed staples on your channel?
So I don't have any like specific series really, but going forward, I definitely want to focus more on just like talking about Pokemon, if that makes sense, and less like the actual playing about Pokemon. It's something I was actually like working on before we started recording this, was like what I want to do for 2026 and how I'm going to like progress my content and stuff. And I definitely want to focus more on just like the discussions and less on the gameplay. Because one trend that I've noticed, which has been a thing for like years, is there's a lot of Pokemon channels who will have like their main channel be one thing and then a second channel that's just like playing Pokemon. And I think having a little bit more of that separation and having more of like a direct focus on the main channel would help a lot, because like I feel so like privileged saying this. Like my channel's doing good, right? Things can continue how they are forever and I'll be just fine. But I want to like take that next step and like have another like big leap of growth and have like another big like incline And I think focusing more on one more specific type of... See, I say like one specific type of content, but it's really not that specific because it's just talking about Pokemon.
Yeah.
I think just sort of like streamlining it a bit more and having that degree of consistency with the content that I'm making will go a long way in the next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear because, end of the year I've been doing similar things, and it's important to have that plan for your content in the direction that you want to take things in. Would you say that still, at this point, the biggest boom your channel has seen was that first Nintendo Intended video?
I would say yes. The first couple of ones. So the Nintendo Intended videos of like the most popular games have done the best. So Diamond and Pearl, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Fire Red Leaf Green, which was the first one, and I think it was one of the Switch ones. It was either Let's Go Pikachu. I think it was Sword and Shield. Did also like very, very well. Because even though people have opinions on Sword and Shield on YouTube tends to do really well for some reason, especially a couple of years ago. And other than that, like there's a few fact videos that I have that have done like very, very well. But if you go to my most viewed videos, I think it's almost entirely Nintendo Intended videos and like a couple of those fact videos sprinkled in.
Okay, sure. So obviously, over the course of this discussion, Pokemon has been there really from the very start. Do you think that now it's sort of, I don't know, when you were that age, would you have ever seen your passion becoming what it is now?
No, I wouldn't. Because like I was saying earlier, like how I like growing up never really knew what I wanted to do. Going into college, never really knew what I wanted to do. YouTube was like the first thing that I was like, I think I want to do that. I want to say it was probably like 2012, 2013. That was around the time where a lot of creators that I followed would be like, hey, I'm quitting my job and doing YouTube full time. And I feel like as the years have gone on since then, it's gone more and more like understood and accepted. Where now it gets to a point where it's like, if you just say like, somebody asks you what you do and you're like, I'm a YouTuber, they don't really like bat an eye. They're not like, huh, what's that? You can do that for a living? Now everybody understands that because of like TikTok and Instagram and like how big everything is. So yeah.
Yeah. No, you're so right. It's obviously this job did not exist when we were younger. So it is totally mind-boggling. Okay. And the Pokemon that's representing this era is going to be Duraludon. So
yes.
Is that mainly because you just so happened that at that particular Atlanta Regionals you were talking about Duraludon there and you picked up the plush and you feel like that sort of heralded in this new era? Yeah,
I would say so. I remember also seeing I don't remember if it was the convention building or just a nearby hotel that just looked like a Duraludon too. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, Duraludon is based on the Shard in London. I myself am based in the UK, a big, tall glass building. So, I can see how you'd start to see Duraludon in lots of the architecture around you. And, of course, a fantastic choice as well because it, as you say, it is a later Pokemon introduced in Generation 8. And so it represents a new era in that sense too. So this means that overall, PaPaSea, your complete dream team is Starmie, Forretress, Gulpin, Samurott, Reshiram, and now we have Duraludon. So, that's interesting. We started off with these two that are very sort of three that are very sort of blob-like in a way, or just sort of simple shapes. Reshiram obviously has a bit more personality to it. Samurott does too. Duraludon, kind of half and half. Clearly animate, but also just based on some kind of object. Have you always gravitated towards those kind of Pokemon, like the Grimers and the Mucks and the Magnetons and the Electros?
Yes. Yeah, so Muck was one of my favorites when I was a kid because it was in the first episode that I ever saw.
I remember you saying, yeah. So, I mean, do you get any inkling as to why that would be, that you gravitate towards the object-based Pokemon?
I don't know. I never really thought about it, honestly.
Yeah. That's really fascinating because I'd say that's pretty rare. I'd say most people would tend to gravitate more towards the animal-based Pokemon, but that's really, really interesting. And so we've got Pokemon spanning right from Generation 1 up to number 8. So really traversing the time periods that you were talking about. But I have to ask you now, if you were to choose one of these to be your partner Pokemon, which would it be?
Okay, partner Pokemon like in real life?
Yeah, so in the manner of Ash and Pikachu and so on.
That's a tough one. Okay, so like the logistical one would be Gulpin, right? Have a little cute little Gulpin pet following me around. The cool one would be Reshiram because then I can fly around on it and be like N.
Sure. It sounds to me though like your heart is saying Gulpin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gulpin. going to be the partner Pokemon, and of course your favorite, and makes total sense, and represents Generation 3, which is your favorite too. Something we didn't actually talk too much about over the course of your content and so on is shiny hunting as well, which I feel like, roughly when did you get into that? That is searching for these ultra rare, differently coloured versions of Pokemon that sparkle on encounter.
I never saw the appeal of just running around the grass and hoping for that slight chance of the Pokemon being a slightly different color and having no other advantages other than that. And then this was probably like 2021, 2022. Like shiny Pokemon content started to like blow up a little bit on YouTube, and I tried to get in on it, but I did it in like the not good way. So like there's a few ways to do it, right? When it comes to shiny hunting content, there's the bad way to do it, the not good way, and then the right way. The bad way is what people were doing is they were just like effectively lying and being like, haha, this is full odd shiny only, but then it wasn't. They would alter the odds and not say it. The not good way, which is what I did, would be to alter the odds and disclose it, but like it's still altered odds, so like who cares? Because the whole point of finding a shiny is they're so rare. Then you change the odds so they're not as rare, so it's like, what's the point? And then the good way is to just actually shiny hunt. Which is what I've been doing now. So I'm more of like a secondary shiny hunter, if that makes sense. Like I love shiny hunting, I love talking about it, but I haven't shiny hunted in like at least since before Z. Actually, no, I'm doing a shiny only playthrough on ZA, but I haven't actually shiny hunted in like 2-3 weeks. It's more of like a secondary Pokemon hobby, if that makes sense. But what really got me into it was I met Quick Panic at Hartford Regionals in 2023 through a mutual friend, Powder, who does mainly TCG content. And we didn't really talk much for months. And then I forget how exactly we like reconnected and we started talking again. And we went to Toronto Regionals together in 2023 and we stayed together. And I wanted to make a shiny only video. And I made that video. And the way it worked was I had somebody with me to show me how to shiny hunt and do a method hunt, which is like a method hunt is a way of shiny hunting through a specific method that'll lower the odds. So for example, horde hunting in the Generation 6 games. If you encounter a horde, that's 5 Pokemon at once. So effectively you have a 5 times chance of finding a shiny because there's 5 Pokemon versus 1. Stuff like that. That was a terrible explanation because horde hunting isn't technically a method hunt, but I think you get my point.
Yeah.
So I was doing that. I had like a different person help me shiny hunt. And I tried my best to have each shiny hunt be in real life with somebody, but that was hard to do because Pokemon creators don't typically live close to each other. So like, that's what got me really into shiny hunting is I had other people show me how to shiny hunt. And then PAX East 2024, I made a video buying a bunch of Pokemon games and looking at the save files. And one of those games that I got was a Japanese copy of Platinum. And when I got home from PAX, I'm like, you know what? Let's do a full odd shiny hunt. So I started software setting for Turtwig and Platinum. And I finally got it a few months ago. But yeah, that was kind of like my whole like journey into shiny hunting is basically Quick Panic bullying me into actually shiny hunting, and then also bullying me into actually full odd shiny hunting, which I now prefer. It's just like it's so relaxing sometimes to just sit down with your DS, run around in the grass while you're watching TV, and then just hoping you find a shiny.
That's exactly it. I think the main error people make is seeing the shiny hunting as the main activity. But if that were the case, you would just go mad. It has to be the thing you're doing in the background while doing something else. And then the time flies by, and as you said, is very relaxing and very cozy. And I don't think you're the first person who Quick Panic has inspired to start shiny hunting.
Yeah, it's also like a way of playing Pokemon that I don't have to be like, oh, I need to make content on this. Like, I still make some content on shiny hunting, but like, I'm playing an Alpha Sapphire Shiny Badge Quest just like on my own because I want to play Pokemon. You know, I'm not sitting there and being like, oh, I should be making content on this. Like, no, like I just like doing it, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, really interesting. But anyway, thank you for telling us more about that. It's going to be Gulpin as your partner Pokemon. Now, a slightly different kind of question for you, PaPaSea. If you were a Pokemon, based on everything you know about yourself, based on everything you've told us about yourself, what do you think you'd be most likely to be?
So, like, what specific Pokemon I would be, or like what kind of archetype of Pokemon?
What specific Pokemon you think you would be?
Okay, specific Pokemon. I don't know. This was the first Pokemon that came to mind when you said it.
Okay.
Bronzong.
Bronzong. Okay.
Because it has that like inanimate object feel.
Yeah.
It's a psychic type. It's a steel type. It's very like, you know, like techie and computery.
True. Okay.
I don't know why. That was the first Pokemon I thought of, just Bronzong.
No, I see it. I definitely see the vision. I like how it ties in with the inanimate thing. I was going to say Psychic for you, I think, makes sense. That you just give that vibe, thinking deeply about things. You know, I'd like to think that your face is maybe a bit more approachable than that of a Bronzong, a bit friendly.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, no, I can definitely see that. Yeah, well, what do you all think? Do you all agree that of all the Pokemon there are, PaPaSea would be a Bronzong? Let us know in the comments because we'd be fascinated to read. Speaking of you all, it's time for your community questions. I posted online as I always do, asking for questions for my guests. Thank you so much for submitting them. I apologise, I won't have time to feature all of them. And if I mispronounce any of your names or handles, but some really interesting questions here. And to kick things off, we've got, and again, apologies for any mispronunciations, Anne Van Mewen 7995. Thank you for your continued support of the show. Anne, what kind of content do you find the most fun to make?
See, that varies. It depends. Like I actually don't know how to answer that. The most fun content I've made is definitely the Nintendo Intended stuff. Just like reading the guide and being like, what the heck is going on? Like, why is it telling me to do this? But then there's like random challenges that I just have a ton of fun doing. So my most recent video at the time of recording is beating Pokemon without breaking the 10 Commandments, which like sounds incredibly weird. And it was. But it required me to play Pokemon in a weird way because there's like some rules I had to avoid. Overall, I would say the Nintendo Intended ones, but it varies. Like there's times where I'm making a fact video and I'm like, oh, this is fun, this is awesome, like all this cool stuff. And then there's other times where I'm like, I kind of regret starting to make this because I don't really like this video anymore. Yeah.
That's really interesting. What's been a standout example of one of those times where you started and then think, oh, actually, no, I don't want to be doing this?
Well, let me go to my channel. I'm trying to do that less. Like,
yeah.
I feel like YouTube, when you do YouTube full time, it's like this weird like push and pull where it's like, this is your job, so you have to create X amount of videos a month, but also this video should be fun.
Yeah.
It's like a weird... there hasn't been a video like that in a while, I have to say. I remember... Okay, so this video from 3 months ago, I spent 100 days shiny hunting in Pokemon X and Y. So ahead of the release of ZA, I was like, I want to replay X and Y. I want to do some shiny hunting in X and Y. So I did a shiny-only playthrough of X and Y, which it didn't take 100 days. Kind of clickbait there, sorry. It took like 92 days. And I remember like I had fun like physically recording and streaming, you know, the shiny hunting and stuff. But editing it was just a struggle. And I feel like that is... It's very rare that I don't enjoy recording the video. It's usually like how I'm editing it that I don't like, or how I'm scripting it that I don't like.
Okay, sure. That's interesting. And I think it makes sense that your answer to this question, what content you find the most fun to make, is just that it varies, because that's the whole point of being, you know, just you have the niche of Pokemon, but then within that you just try out lots of different things. Just sort of go with the flow on the day. So thank you for that question. Now, next question from Sir Sean 5. Again, apologies for any mispronunciation. What did you think of Pokemon Legends ZA?
I loved ZA, dude. I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun playing this game. I played through it 2.5 times now.
That's the most important thing. That's great. So again, we're recording late 2025, so Pokemon Legends EA has been out for a couple of months now. Fantastic. Next question here from Ollie Evans 7810, and again, thank you for your continued support of the show, Ollie. A really interesting one, this. What's your favourite video you've made this year?
Okay. It's a video I made earlier this year. The Pokemon Yellow Professor Oak's Challenge. Because I played that on an actual cartridge and I streamed the entirety of it, and it took way too long. It was a lot of fun. It took way too long to make, which is another reason why I've only done a handful of Oak challenges. Is just they take so long to make. That video was uploaded early 2025, and it kind of coincides with what I was saying with Duraludon, where I feel like my content kind of took a turn around that point to like just do like bigger stuff and do it better.
That's great. Yeah, for an unfamiliar Professor Oak challenge, you have to get every Pokemon that is obtainable before each gym. So that means fully evolving your first partner Pokemon, for example. That's going to evolve at level 36, and of course before the first gym the levels are around up to level 10, so it's going to take exponentially longer the higher level you climb, because of course it gets harder to reach each successive level.
So about half of the gameplay for Yellow for the Professor Oaks challenge was before Brock's gym.
Right. Yeah,
it's like almost exactly 50% of the game time is just before then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, well, thank you for that question, Ollie. Now, final question here from That's a Plus One, who is someone who I have also featured on the show, a Pokemon VGC competitive content creator, and clearly a big fan of yours too, PaPaSea, which is, which guidebook is your favourite out of all the ones you've used thus far for your Nintendo Intendeds?
I would have to say the original one, the original Fire Red and Leaf Green one, the Primo one. But I feel like that's such an obvious answer. So if it's not that one, I would say, yeah, I couldn't remember if it was Nintendo Power or Primo or what, but this is the Nintendo Power for yellow, red, and blue. And it just has like such like a 90s feel to it. And I just love the way it is. It has that quirkiness like the Primo ones do. I don't believe this is the first red and blue guide. I mean, it's definitely not, because this one has yellow as well. But it's one of the earlier ones, and it's just really cute and really fun, and has like all the nice art on the back and stuff. So I would say this one or the Primo Fire Red and Leaf Green one.
Okay, yeah. Very interesting. As again, it's taking me right back as someone who had that Pokemon Red Blue Master Guide. Well, thank you so much for all of your questions there. And if you'd like to submit a question for a future guest on Chazingdra Chats, you can find my handles at Chazingdra across X, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and of course YouTube. That's where I post the call outs for questions. I would love to hear what you'd love to hear. All right then. So, PaPaSea, we've heard a lot about you up to now, but what's next for you?
So I talked about this a little bit before. I want 2026 to be like a big year for content and stuff. I definitely want to focus more, like a little bit more niche, but not super niche in terms of what I'm uploading. Definitely focusing more on just talking about Pokemon, possibly having a second channel where I have like Pokemon challenge videos about playing the game and stuff like that. But definitely a more like streamlined and tactical approach to the main channel, because I want to see I want to continue to grow as a creator, I guess is the best way to put it. And I don't want any stagnation. One thing that I always focused on ever since I started YouTube really was I wanted to make sure that each year my videos were noticeably better from the last year. And I feel like between 2022 and 2024, that wasn't like super apparent. But 2025, I feel like was a big step up. But I want 2026 to be like an even bigger step up.
That makes total sense. I mean, you want to keep... Not to be cheesy about it, well, you want to keep evolving, of course, with the content that you're doing.
Yeah, because you can't make content in 2026 that you also made in 2021. Like, that's not how that works. Like, it's constantly changing, constantly evolving. What viewers want to see is constantly evolving, and people are just constantly getting better and better at making videos as well, and you also have to fall in line with that.
Yeah, for sure. Fascinating. Well, we wish you all the very best with that, PaPaSea. And now, final question for you. Looking back from now, as a successful Pokemon content creator, all the way back to the young PaPaSea, who was pretty disappointed receiving Tetris that Christmas when his sisters got Pokemon, what advice would you give to that younger you?
Oh, just keep playing Pokemon. That's it, honestly. Yeah, just keep playing Pokemon. Like, Pokemon's like the thing that changed my life. It's like the most consistent thing in my life. It's something that's always been there. There's like maybe 2 or 3 years of my life that it wasn't in there when I was a literal baby. But other than that, it's just always been there. It's like every day I'm either playing Pokemon, making a video about Pokemon, playing Pokemon Go. I have a Pokewalker in my pocket at all times. Like, where is it? Yeah, a Pokewalker in my pocket at all times so I can get dive balls in Pokemon Soul Silver, because it's the only way to get them. Like, just keep playing Pokemon, dude. That's it.
Well, it's great to hear that your advice would be essentially what you've always been doing, and just something that you enjoy thriving on, of course. And Pokewalkers, for anyone unfamiliar, coming out with Pokemon Heart Gold, also with a remix of Generation 2. You can transfer a Pokemon in there, help it gain levels, just as you're walking around and gain other items there as well. Well, the chat is not in there, because now we're getting into PaPaSea's Rapidash round, 15 or so minutes of bonus questions that PaPaSea is not prepared for. And as with all of my guests, there's so much more I want to take a deeper dive into. We could just keep going and going. What does PaPaSea enjoy beyond Pokemon and gaming? What are the origins of this name, PaPaSea? What advice would PaPaSea give to creators? All sorts of things like that. If you want to hang out with me and PaPaSea for a little bit longer, then you become a YouTube channel member, which gets you access to bonus videos as well as plenty more perks. You can click on join below, see what they are before you actually join. And then if you want to buy the Rapidash rounds individually, they're available on my Patreon. The links will be below. Fundamentally, I really appreciate the fact that you've hung out with me and PaPaSea for this time. But again, if you want to get to know PaPaSea that a little bit better, then the Rapidash round is available for you. And again, links will be below. But for now, PaPaSea, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's been fantastic to take a deeper dive and to learn some things that I'm sure your audience has not been aware of. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's been wonderful to chat to you. And if people want to keep up with you online, where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube at PaPaSea, Twitter, PaPaSea11. I don't remember my other usernames on other websites, but it's something along the lines of PaPaSea. If you see this face, it's me.
Make sure you're following along with PaPaSea's fantastic content, everybody. If you've enjoyed this chat with PaPaSea, please do like and subscribe. It would mean a huge amount, and they go such a long way, as PaPaSea can attest to. A broad range of creators. We've got Austin John Players, MJTV, WolfGlick, and far more besides. But beyond that, plenty more content on my channel too. Again, I'm a host and commentator of the Pokemon Video Game Championship Series. You can take a look at my deep dive into the Europe International Championships 2025, where I was casting, get the perspective of a caster, how I utilise my drama school training in commentating and telling the epic tale of that event. And I'm at Chazingdra across all socials, and my Discord community is linked below. My email is linked below. And going forward, everybody, I'm going to start to do a series of Chazingdra chats rather than every single week, because just as PaPaSea was talking about there, it will give me the opportunity to explore other kinds of content and see what works. I just enjoy playing all kinds of challenges within Pokemon, and so we'll give me more time to produce other kinds of content and lean more into that. But the podcast will still continue. It will also mean, of course, that I'm able to put more time into curating a series of guests for you all for the show. So it feels like, as we were talking about again there, PaPaSea, the natural evolution for the show going forward. So I hope you all enjoy the new format. Thanks so much for your support of the show thus far, and it will continue. But with that being said, PaPaSea, it's now time to get into your Rapidash round. So if you're not joining us as a YouTube channel member or on Patreon for that, then it's goodbye from PaPaSea, and it's goodbye from me. See you next time on Chazingdra Chats, where there'll be another 6 Pokemon, 1 life story. Alright then, PaPaSea, how are you feeling about these bonus questions?
I feel good. I don't know what kind of questions they could be, but I feel good.
Well, let's dive in with the ones that I've teased so far. So, I guess first of all, what we'll start with actually is, what advice would you give to aspiring creators?
So I'm assuming